Every time a new technology gives ordinary people power, the same strange thing tends to happen. The people who already have power call it dangerous, they call it lazy, fake, and the end of something sacred. And then quietly, while the peasants squabble, they start using it themselves. Today, we're going to explore the allegory of the Royal Hills in an attempt to answer one simple question. Who are the losers when everyone else gains access? Welcome to the Hidden Archive. Imagine a hill that over time has become a mountain. At the top of this hill sits a royal council. They have the best view, the cleanest air, the safest walls, and the richest soil. From the summit, they can see everything below them. They control the resources, they control the paths, and perhaps most importantly, they control the story of why they deserve to be there. Now, some of them really did climb. Some of them reached the top when the hill was much smaller, when the path was clearer, when the mountain had not yet been crowded with people trying to follow. These royals are a mixture of those who were early, talented, or lucky, while others inherited a place already prepared for them. And over time, the hill grew. You see, when ordinary people believe that the hill has value, it gives that hill and those on it a sort of power. It's their admiration and envy that turns it into a mountain abundant with resources at the top. So what do these ordinary people do? Well, they organize their lives around the possibility that one day, just maybe one day, they might reach the summit too. The more attention the hill gets, the higher it goes, and herein lies a problem. If too many people climb the hill, it begins to lose all meaning. If everyone can reach the summit, the views held at the top become common. The royal council no longer feels quite so rare. And if everyone can stand at the top of the mountain, then being at the top is no longer special. So the hill evolves, the paths decay, the gates are reinforced, the credentials become more expensive, and the rituals become more difficult to understand. Over time, the ordinary people are no longer trying to climb a hill. They're attempting to assault a fortress. All the way at the bottom of the hill exist the masses of ordinary people who live on the plain. The plain is overcrowded, it's noisy, and being this close to the ground, it makes you feel the effects of gravity more. You're tired, exhausted, there are fewer resources and less opportunities. The vast majority of people down here are so concerned with survival that it's difficult for them to contemplate self-actualization at the top of the hill. And there's a deep inner knowing that exists amongst the people of the plain that life gets easier the higher up you go. These people aren't greedy or power hungry, they just want more time and the ability to pursue something meaningful. And this is the sad thing about status. The people who most need the climb often have the least amount of strength left to attempt it. So the Royal Council tells a comforting story that the path is open and that anyone can climb it. They themselves did after all, well, at least some of them. See, the hill, it rewards effort, discipline, sacrifice, and talent. And you know what? Sometimes that's true. Sometimes a person from the plain really does make it. They reach the top and they're celebrated and turned into proof. See, the system works. But one survivor doesn't prove that the bridge is safe, and one climber reaching the summit doesn't mean that the path was fair. Now, can you blame a citizen of the plain for becoming exhausted, climbing a path that was never really designed for them? Slowly over time, these ordinary people, they begin to gain awareness. If the old hill is too guarded, perhaps the answer isn't to beg for entry. Perhaps it's simply easier to build a new hill. And one of the most powerful ways humans build new hills is through technology. See, technology takes something that was once difficult, rare, slow or expensive and makes it easier to access. It reduces the distance between desire and outcome. A keyboard amplifies writing, and a telescope amplifies sight. A microscope amplifies curiosity, and a microphone amplifies the human voice. A camera amplifies memory, and a bicycle amplifies movement. A spreadsheet amplifies organization, and AI amplifies cognition. It doesn't make humans disappear, it magnifies intention. And this is why technology is rarely good or evil by itself. See, a microphone can spread truth or propaganda. A camera can document injustice or manufacture illusion. A vehicle can carry medicine or weapons. A network can build community or spread hatred. The morality isn't hidden inside the object, it begins with the human hand that reaches for it. Technology is an amplifier, and when ordinary people get access to an amplifier, a new hill begins to rise. At first, the Royal Council laugh. They look down from the top of their old hill and see people gathering around this strange new formation. It looks crude and chaotic. And then all of a sudden they feel their hill beginning to shrink. Desperately they look around to see that the ordinary people, they're not looking up as often as they used to. Instead, their attention is drifting away to something new. The perceived value of the old hill, it begins to fade. Those laughs turn into cries of outrage. How dare those ordinary people find another way? The grand illusion starts to shatter here, because status, it isn't just what you have, it's what other people believe you have. And if you can't keep that illusion going, your throne, it becomes a chair. And if the ritual stops feeling sacred, the priest becomes a man in a costume. Even the gatekeeper is no longer relevant if he guards nothing valuable. This is the psychology of status panic, the fear of becoming ordinary just like everyone else. When the new hill begins to rise, the people of the old hill split into two groups. The first sees the new hill and feels curiosity. They understand that the world changes, and they know that power which cannot adapt eventually begins to fade. These people don't need the old hill to remain sacred forever, because their confidence is not entirely built on one hill. They're happy to climb others, compete and learn new things, and even if it makes them feel uncomfortable at first. These are rare leaders who do not fear the success of others. They often encourage it. They understand that a world with many hills can be a stronger world for everyone. But the second group of people, they see this new hill as a threat. They don't care about any new possibilities that it might bring to everyone else. They're more concerned about what it takes away from them. So they send out a royal decree. This new hill, it's a moral evil. It's against tradition, against humanity itself. They say that no true artist, thinker, musician, filmmaker, designer, or builder would ever use such a thing. And because they still occupy the old summits, many people still believe them. That is how power protects itself without ever appearing to do so. Imagine if they were actually honest and said, "Don't climb because I'm afraid of you." Would you still respect them? So instead, they say, "Don't climb because that hill will make you impure." Turning the people of the plain against each other, is a very clever tactic. They don't need to descend into the chaos below. They get to shout shame from above and have the masses do their dirty work for them. And all of a sudden, instead of climbing hills, ordinary people of the plane are policing each other. If someone tries to climb the new hill, they get dragged back down. Tall poppy syndrome. You're not allowed to rise above your perceived position. If you start small, you remain small. And this is very strange because people who have never been invited to the old summit begin defending the old gates. People with no power and low status begin protecting the very people who already have it. They attack, mock, and bully anyone attempting to explore new territory and insist that suffering is part of legitimacy. The only path forward is the conservative path, the traditional path, the close-minded path. And they sabotage the very tools that might have helped them build something on their own. And this is one of the oldest tricks in the preservation of status. Convince the people outside of the walls that the walls are a moral necessity, that exclusion is excellence and that misery and suffering is proof of virtue. Once that psychological manipulation has been effective, the ordinary, poor, low-status people will guard the elite for free. I'm sorry to say, but that's not even the worst part. You see, while the people of the plane were bickering amongst themselves, something quite sinister was happening in secret. The old elite send out envoys. Quietly, they begin to explore the new territory. They build small camps under discreet banners. They test the soil, study the paths, invest early. And quite sneakily, this all happens while their public message remains the same. Be careful, it's dangerous, it's not legitimate. This is not for serious people. And then, only once their position is secure, the message changes. Suddenly, the new hill is acceptable. It's a tool of innovation. Now these old powers have regulated it. It's open season for the rest of the world. There's only one problem though. There's a castle on this hill now. There are new walls, and they've dug their moats. Oh, and look at that, there's a private sky rail between the old hill and the new one. A new message echoes from both hills. Now you may climb. But the summit, it's already been claimed. If we zoom out, we can see this story plays out again and again. Different eras, a variety of industries. It's a pattern that repeats across history. And that's not to say that every piece of new technology is purely beneficial for ordinary people and society at large. It's disruptive. There are winners and losers, and the new hills are always going to threaten the old ones. But underneath it all, there are questions that people are just less willing to say out loud, which are, what happens when skills that once took years to learn become available in seconds? What happens when a person without institutional approval can generate images, write code, produce music, edit videos, analyze data, or build a business with tools that they couldn't previously afford? What happens when taste, judgment, storytelling, and direction become more important than the laborious mechanical process and technical gatekeeping? And what happens when the distance between imagination and execution collapses? For some people, it's exciting. If you're creative, it's never been easier to make high-scope work with limited time and minimal resources. But for others, the idea is humiliating. Because if your status and identity was built on being one of the few people who could operate the machinery or software, then a world where the machinery becomes easier to operate can feel like an attack on your identity. Some of the concerns are real, some of the harms as well, and there are serious questions that need answers. But there is a difference between protecting people from harm and protecting status from competition. And that difference, it isn't always obvious at first. So when an authority figure tells you that a new piece of technology is inherently evil, listen carefully, don't dismiss it automatically, but don't surrender your judgment either. Just ask yourself, what are they protecting? Ask yourself who benefits from the old path remaining the only legitimate one. Ask yourself whether the people condemning this new hill are also quietly building on it. And ask yourself whether the moral panic is really about harm or whether it's about access. Remember, technology is neither good or evil, it's an amplifier of human intention. Every shortcut threatens the people who sold the long road, and every new hill threatens the people whose power depends on everyone else staring up at the old one. So the next time an authority conflates technology with a moral virtue, just ask yourself one simple question. What do they have to lose if ordinary people use that technology for good?